You know, all these solar cells, how they are looking like, and they are flexible in some way, but they are also brittle. So as you can see, they are out of thin glass, for example, silicon-based, and they have some, let's say, restrictions in terms of bending. We are here working on a different technology which can directly be applied on a metal sheet. This is a coating, and we apply it directly on the surface, and it's flexible, so there's no brittleness in it, and we are able now to cover the whole painted area of the vehicle with the solar material, so that the whole vehicle, all areas which are painted, are becoming solar active. This means that, for example, in southern German area, over the year we can collect around 12,000 kilometers of range just by solar. In the summer it's going to be on a daily basis maybe 50 to 60 kilometers. In the winter, when it's very dark and rainy, for example, it can be maybe on a daily basis only 1 or 2 kilometers, but in average this will lead to 12,000 kilometers for a mid-size SUV with an average consumption of around roughly 16 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Free driving from sun power. It will be coated with a color which is 94% translucent, and the appearance of the car will be available in any color. You're talking about the butterfly effect. Yes, it's more or less the reflection of a certain wavelength of the sunlight. So there's no pigments in it. That the appearance will be, for example, in blue, if you have like 450 nanometers of nanoparticles in it. The reflection and the appearance will be blue, although the color is not actually blue because it doesn't have blue pigments in it. But you can do it also in yellow or in red or in any other color you like. And it doesn't have to be necessarily black all over, like a rooftop out of solar cells, for example. No, it's not going to be super expensive. It doesn't have any critical raw materials in it, so it can be fully recycled. It seems like a miracle, but we have prototypes running in our test lab, not applied yet on a vehicle, but we are close to doing that. So this is a very interesting time for us.
V predmestju Stuttgarta v kraju Böblingen ima Mercedes-Benz razvojni center, v katerem se inženirji igrajo z idejami, ki segajo daleč v prihodnost. Ampak ideja o pridobivanju energije z avtomobilskim lakom bi utegnila postati realnost že prej kot v 10 letih. No, predstavili pa so nam še 2 takšni inovaciji, druga je na svoj način celo povezana s fotovoltaiko.
We see here how a PV active rooftop on the EQXX, for example, is operated. You have a series connection, so all solar cells are connected to each other, like in a Christmas tree lamp, for example. And one single cell is shaded, for example, the whole efficiency of the system drops down. We can use the power converter, for example, to change from series connection to a parallel connection and operate on, let's say, a smaller amount of cells. So if one, for example, is shaded and is reducing the power of that string, then the others are still fully active and working on the high efficiency. In that case, we are transferring the generated energy directly into the high voltage system because we can modulate it from the very low voltage level to the very high voltage level of 400 volt or 800 volts, for example. We can use this as well on the battery. The battery has nearly similar voltage levels on a single cell. A single cell is normally on a lithium technology. On a fully charged cell it's 4.2 volts. On a very low charging level it's 3.2 volts. So the series connection normally sums up the voltage level to drive the 400 volt or 800 volt electromotor. So when we move from the series connection to the parallel connection, we can, on each individual cell, we can install a power converter and go directly into the 800 volts, for example. That means we are independent from the number of cells, because in the series connections you need a certain amount of cells so that the voltage level adds up to 800 volts, for example. With that, we are getting much more flexible because we are independent from the number of cells we are using and we are independent from the cell sizes. So we can also mix different cell chemistries, for example, LFP and NMC, or maybe in the future sodium-based technology, which has a completely different cell voltage level than a lithium. And this gives us a lot of freedom and flexibility for future electric drives.
Tretja inovacija razteguje življenjsko dobo zavor na življenjsko dobo avtomobila.
In the research area, we're also thinking about how can we optimize the overall drivetrain performance and integration. And therefore, we had a new idea, which is probably not let's say, a revolution, but it's a high integration technology. As on the electric vehicles, we normally have between the wheels an electromotor, which is the dark gray part here. We thought that might be a good option to integrate the mechanical brakes that are normally sitting inside the wheel or inside the rims directly onto the electromotor in terms of optimizing the system, getting rid of any particle emissions, getting rid of any dirt on the rims, but also increasing the quality of the function. We are now having a situation where everything is totally isolated. That means there is no brake dust being expelled to the environment. Within 300,000 kilometers and 15 years, we estimate right now that it's not necessary to change any brake pads. We modified the system. We have now a brake pad completely over 360 degrees. That means the forces applied to the brake pads are reduced because we have a larger surface. We have the brake disc, which is now standing. It's not rotating anymore because the brake pad is rotating, and this gives us the opportunity to water cool it on the backside. So we think this is very beneficial in terms of weight, for example, and in terms of reducing the unsprung masses of the tires, because we get rid of a lot of weight that's normally sitting in the area where the tires are. That means weight reductions always increases the comfort of the vehicle, and the integration directly onto the electromotor has also other benefits, because we now can, for example, close the rims. That means the aerodynamic efficiency will increase, the total cost of ownership will be reduced because you don't have to change your brake pads and your discs anymore. You're fully flexible on the rim design. You don't need to bend your housings where the wheel is normally sitting. With that integration of the brake onto the electromotor, we have always the same friction coefficient and the same, let's say, conditions. That means, I guess, the dosing of the brake might be getting much better in comparison to what we have today.
A zdaj to pomeni, da bomo imeli v prihodnosti samo še 4-kolesno gnane avtomobile?
In terms of the two-wheel drive, you will also have to integrate this on the front axle, but you probably only have an empty electromotor housing or a bracket which holds the system. So you can also apply to a two-wheel drive system. It doesn't matter, at least.
Čeprav so takšne zavore precej realistična prihodnost, pa jih prihajajoči električni model CLA seveda še ne bo ponujal. Bo pa CLA kljub temu pomenil precejšno prelomnico v svetu električnih vozil, in to je dokazal na dirkališču Nardo na jugu Italije. Zakaj je šlo, oziroma koliko je šlo? Kliknite in poglejte.